All right. 45, here we go. What is going on here? So it's this one. There we go. All right. Hey, what's up, SML? How are you? One fun thing. Okay, SML, one fun thing before we get started on another very chaotic day. What is a fun thing that you want to do? I'm always down to have a little bit of fun. Yes, Lisa is back. Let's see if she's around. Not yet. She hasn't dialed in. Morthy. Morthy. Juliana Stratton. What do you spy? Primaries. Shaq Brewster, Steve Kornacki. Hey, Lise, how do you feel about killing Q3 on Chicago for A2? Or do we still need it to make Kornacki happen? What's up, Kate? Hi, Kate. Long time no see. It's been about 10 minutes. The logo. What about the logo? You think gas is going to go down? Eventually, yes. I do think it will go down. But I don't know. I mean, it's California, so I don't know where you are. It's already $5, $6 if you're getting diesel. But gas is very, very high. And again, in the United States, we do not get most of our oil from the Strait of Hormuz. We now get oil from Venezuela, but yeah, go ahead. Yep. Stretch for Kornacki. Got it. Okay. Okay. If you guys do get eyes on him early for some reason, which I doubt you will, feel free to ping me and then I'll axe that third. Awesome. Yeah, $8? Jeez. That's crazy. We're doing okay. Max, how are you doing today? There was a clip of a crash outside Watertown on Nightly News earlier. Which crash was that? Was it the train crash into the 18-wheeler? Let's see. Oh, James, thanks so much. You don't have to do that, but thank you. Let's see. I should... supposed to post a TikTok right now to, you know, contribute to the algorithm of the, so people find the show. Who knows? Any ideas on what we should post tonight? I keep thinking about what Richard Engel said yesterday. I don't know if you guys were watching. I know that just a little while ago, CENTCOM released some information that they had dropped some deep ground penetrators. Those were those types of bombs that they used in the attack on Fordo. So I think we're going to be hitting Courtney Cuby with that in a little while. Yeah, let's talk about that. £5,000 deep penetrator munitions. Election night, that's right. So we're going to be starting with election night. The primaries out in Chicago and all across Illinois. This is going to be a seismic shift no matter what happens because there's so many people retiring. And we are going to be looking at all the different races. This is really like old school political establishment versus new infusion of all kinds of money from different, you know, donators. And in addition to that, you've got grassroots organizations pulling people in a third direction. So we will be talking to Steve Kornacki in a little bit, as well as Shaq Brewster, who's on the ground for us in Chicago. Please restart the color bars. I'll just do this. Oh, 81, huh? SML, updating stuff is expensive. I don't like change, but maybe. All right, let's do this here. All right, let's pull up this CENTCOM thing, and then I will. Yep. A6. Straight over. Which is. I'm trying to shut down. Supply chain. Okay. Okay, perfect. Yep, that works. That works. That's actually. I'm gonna for not doing enough. And then we have. So we're just, and just within the last hour again, let me just do it again here. CENTCOM. Okay, cool. That works. Thank you. Mic check, check. 452. All right, guys, how's it going? Let's see. We got some people on TikTok. We got some people on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching. We're putting on the final touches on the show. The show is a lot today. We are going to be starting in Illinois, where the state there is in primary season. Yeah, if you live in Illinois, you've probably seen the attack ads. They are everywhere, right? Anybody in Illinois? Anybody in Illinois seeing all the attack ads? Hi, 217, just like me here on Twitch, because it's pretty chill. That's what we're talking about. Hi is out on Twitch. So now we're streaming on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. It's funny, I see like a consolidated stream of everybody's chats when I'm looking right here. And I gotta say, everybody, all the different platforms have different vibes. TikTok gets a little spicy. Twitch, hi, I'm not gonna lie, right now, it's the most cordial and copacetic. SML is basically the king of the YouTube chat, so there's that. And let's see, I think we're, who knows, maybe do Kick next. But this is such a fun way to be able to chat with you guys during the show. So in about 6 minutes, we're gonna be starting the show. It's gonna be the open, and we're gonna go into political coverage. And then whenever I can, I'll take a look at see what you guys are interested in. Sometimes I'll see a question that somebody asks in the chat that's a really, really smart question, and I'll be able to ask it right there or answer it on TV. And then at the commercial breaks, we'll be able to chat here a little bit longer. So this is hopefully the future of news, more of a two-way street, an experiment that I'm running here at NBC over here on the Universal lot. If you're just tuning in for the first time, this is Stay Tuned, or this is the pre-show to Stay Tuned. Stay Tuned starts in about 5 minutes, and it is a show on NBC News Now. You can stream it on regular TVs. Any big TV should have it. Just look for NBC News Now, 5 o'clock on the West Coast, 8 o'clock on the East Coast. But of course, if you're here on the socials or YouTube or Twitch, you can also find it here. And this one is interactive, just between us. Doreen, I'm doing pretty good. How are you? An all game Joker Wild. It's a wild time. Let's see. Miss Tia, great to see you. Aw. Yes, back at you. SML, you are funny. Let's see. Can you please do the monitor tour? 1989. Tech Gotti. What's up, Krabby Leftist? Let's see. And then what was the other one? I used to. Okay, I think we're caught up. All right. So now let's do something on TikTok. Let's do kind of a. What's today's date again?
Today, 17th.
Today's the 17th?
Yeah.
March 17th. Okay. Yeah, that's right. All right, March 17th, got to say the date right up front because, you know, it's TikTok and I don't want anybody finding this in 2 years or 3 years thinking it's going on today. Just a little while ago, we saw CENTCOM announcing that they have dropped, the United States has dropped these deep ground penetrating munitions. It's basically the GBU 57s, I think, these huge bombs that penetrate deep into bunkers or fortified facilities. They did this on some places near the Strait of Hormuz that they think were harboring some like cruise missiles that could be shot at some boats. So we're going to be talking about that. And we're also going to be talking about the topography of the Strait of Hormuz and the topography of all the area around that strait. I mean, if you know Iran and you know the mountainous region, you know it is built for defense. So it is so important when it comes to talking about the war and what is possible and what is not possible. So we're going to keep our eyes on that, and all of that's coming up on Stay Tuned. So please watch. All right, so now we got to post that. All right. I know. Doreen, look, I hate doing it too. Because guess what? I work for you guys, not TikTok. But this is just the world that we live in. Let's see. So, CENTCOM, update from CENTCOM. More ahead. So stay tuned at 5. I'll do, so stay tuned on the stream.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. This is so stressful. Update from CENTCOM, more ahead, so stay tuned on the stream. Boom. All right, done. Does anybody else get stressed out by social media? I do. But in order for the algorithm to see your stuff, you gotta post, apparently. So we will post. For now, as we run this experiment, are you allowed to go into great details about Iran? Yes, we're gonna go into so much detail. In fact, we've got expert. We've got Gabe Gutierrez, who's going to be talking about this very high-level resignation. Joe Kent, he was one of the inner circle of Trump's intelligence apparatus, and he has resigned over the war in Iran. We are going to be talking about the topography. We're going to be talking about what just happened on the Strait of Hormuz. We're going to be talking about what is happening across the region. Hezbollah. Yeah, go for it. All good. Go for it, man. Okay.
1 minute.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. That was a control room. That was
30 away.
30 seconds away, and that's Shaq getting ready. Whew, we almost had to pivot here. 30 away, sitting here, right?
Standing at B.
Standing at B, okay. All right, 30 seconds to the top of the show, everybody. Here we go. We're going straight in. All right, we got Shaq. He's looking good. Lights on. Breaking in. Okay. So in 10 seconds, our show's going to start. We're going to go straight out to Illinois, and you guys are going to see it right here. So here we go. And we are starting tonight as polls have just closed out in Illinois in a primary already proven to represent this generational seismic shift in Democratic politics. Big congressional names stepping down. They are ushering in this sea of challengers. The biggest seat to fill is that of retiring Senator Dick Durbin. The main contenders right now include Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy and Congresswoman Robin Kelly, and then Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. And this is shaping up to be a fight between big money versus old school political machines. Krishnamurthy has raised and spent almost $30 million on ads throughout his campaign, pitting himself against the state's governor, J.B. Pritzker. Pritzker has been endorsing Stratton and trying to bolster her war chest with $15 million in this super PAC to help her. Meanwhile, down the ballot, there are potentially 4 seats in Congress that could be up for grabs in a shakeup that has not been seen in generations. And because Illinois is such a Democratic stronghold, everything that happens here is going to have ripple effects for the future of that Democratic Party. Let's bring in Shaquille Brewster, who is on the ground in Chicago right now. Shaquille, polls closed at 8 Eastern. So what have you been hearing throughout the day?
Yeah, polls just closed. That explains the empty room behind me. People, I'm sure, were still knocking on doors, still doing what they can to get those voters out at the very last minute. But, you know, we just heard from the Chicago Board of Elections about an hour or so ago, and we know that turnout so far across the city, at least, is 22%, just under 22%. Again, that was about an hour and a half ago, so we'll see how those numbers increase. And that's the thing, you know, these are low turnout primaries. So when you look at the money that's been involved and spending that's been involved in this and the messaging from the candidates, it really can make a difference because it's all about the energy and enthusiasm of the voters. That's why you have many of these candidates, they've been making the case that they're the strongest ones to take on Donald Trump if they go to Washington, D.C. It's because they want to activate and mobilize that base, and that really leans in and explains some of that messaging that you've been hearing from the candidates and what voters have been telling me they've been reacting to.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you hear that low turnout primary and a lot of people are like, yeah, why do we care? And then anybody that watches politics is laser focused on all the dynamics behind that are at play right now. There are 2 big political showdowns. There's Trump also happening in the background. J.B. Pritzker, they're kind of like casting a shadow over everything that's happening there in Illinois. Can you talk to me about some of the impact that you've seen?
Yeah, that's a really, really good point because you get that question a lot, especially with these primaries. And I think when you kind of broaden out a little bit, the reason why people care, the reason why people are looking at what happens in these races is because this is a real test of the Democratic base, of the Democratic voter. How are they feeling? What's their mood, especially when you look at what's happening in Washington, D.C. These are pretty safe Democratic seats that we're talking about. When you look at the race for Senate, when you look at the 5 open congressional seats that are open here in the state of Illinois, these are blue seats. So this is really a test of what voters want to hear, what messages they're listening for. And I have talked to plenty of voters when I was outside of a polling location earlier today. I want you to listen to what a few of them told me. Why did you make sure you came out to vote today?
I guess as I'm getting more and more disillusioned with democracy and kind of the general direction of the Democratic Party at the national level, I think it's really important to support candidates who are genuinely progressive and working for change. And so candidates like Kat and Robin felt like the important ones to vote for right now.
What helped you decide on a candidate?
From the advertisements, mostly on television. Yeah.
Those ads mattered.
Yeah, they did. So that's why I choose some of the ones I chose. Yeah. Like I knew I was going to choose Stratton, and I knew I was going to choose Bliss, and I knew a few other ones.
When a candidate says, I want to fight Trump, I want to stop Trump, that's something you appreciate.
That sounds good. Yes, definitely.
And I think what that shows is that it's not only about the issues. Yes, voters care a lot about the issues, the cost of their health care, the groceries, the rise in gas prices that we're seeing as a result of the war in Iran. But when you're talking to these Democratic voters who are coming out, part of that 20% so far here in Chicago, it matters to them how these candidates are putting up a fight against Donald Trump. And that goes to the messaging that you've been hearing from many of the candidates saying, hey, I'm the best fighter, or don't choose that candidate because someone who supports Trump is funding them. You're hearing a lot of that messaging, and that explains the dynamics that we've been seeing for the past couple of months when you listen to the voters who went to the polls today.
Shaq Brewster out there in Chicago for us. Shaq, thank you. And let's bring in Steve Kornacki, who's at the big board to break down the races in tonight's Illinois primary. What's it looking like right now?
Good early number there. Well, Gotti, I think one of the things here is the polls just closed here. Most of the action in this Senate race is going to come out of Chicago and the suburbs right around Chicago. I mean, when I say most, I'm talking like 80% of the vote is going to come roughly from where I just circled there on the map. But we do have a result here from downstate. This is from St. Clair County. This is just outside St. Louis. East St. Louis is here, among other cities and towns. It's an interesting result, though, because I think one of the questions has been, if the race is competitive right there in the Chicagoland area, who's winning in the rest of the state? Krishnamurthy has spent the most money. Congressman Krishnamurthy has spent the most money on ads around the state. But at least here in St. Clair County, with about a third of the vote, you see Juliana Stratton, the lieutenant governor, who's endorsed by J.B. Pritzker, who's the governor. Pritzker, through his super PAC, has put a lot of money on behalf of Stratton. She actually does lead Krishnamurthy here, but I think it's an interesting result because it shows those two candidates here, when you get well outside of where most of the votes are going to come from, those two candidates so clearly separated from the third candidate, Congresswoman Robin Kelly. So again, I think there was a sense here in the days leading up to this vote, Gotti, that this race perhaps was becoming more of a two-way race than a three-way race. At least in this one initial result, that might be something. Yeah. There might be something to that.
It's so interesting, and so interesting to hear all of the money that has been spent in this race. Again, it is a low turnout, expected to be somewhat of a relatively low turnout primary, and yet one that has implications that are so big. And yet, when we hear low turnout, like how many votes are we expecting today, and how soon could things get called?
Yeah, I think one of the things here, unfortunately, I say here, Illinois is tends to be one of the slower counting states. So, we're keep an open mind here. We're always hoping with these things they get a little bit faster as they go along. But in terms of fully knowing how many votes were cast here and what the turnout looked like, we might not have a good sense of that until tomorrow, until a few days from now. I think what we're hoping for tonight, though, is that you get enough of the vote in that it becomes clear who's going to win these races. This race, obviously, this Democratic race for the U.S. Senate, whoever wins this, given how blue Illinois is, the overwhelming favorite to win the Senate seat in November. Also a number of congressional races here throughout the state. Again, we hope tonight that there's enough result that it's clear who's going to win those races, even though it does sometimes take them. It can take them days to count all the votes in Illinois.
We'll see. And we'll be watching you for days then. Steve Kornacki, thank you so very much. Got it. And turning now to the war in Iran, and a lot of huge developments to get to, starting with this big announcement just came in from U.S. Central Command. It said that it had successfully hit Iranian missile sites with 5,000-pound bombs along the Strait of Hormuz. That's that critical shipping lane Iran has been trying to shut down in this chokehold of the global oil supply chain. Now, we're also learning tonight about the assassinations of 2 more top Iranian officials, plus this big resignation from within the Trump administration over the war in Iran. The man overseeing U.S. intelligence on terrorism, he stepped down from his job in protest to the war. While Trump is doubling down on his attacks on our NATO allies for not doing enough to help in the war. And just within the last hour, again, CENTCOM announcing the U.S. has struck Iranian missile sites near the Strait of Hormuz with 5,000-pound deep penetrator munitions, all that and more. But first, let's get over to NBC News' Richard Engel for the latest from the Middle East.
Ali Larijani was last seen in public on Friday during a government rally in Tehran. Proof to Iranians that their government was still functioning and unafraid. Today, Israel killed him. Prime Minister Netanyahu announcing it, saying, "We are undermining the regime with the hope of giving the Iranian people a chance to remove it." Larijani was a hardliner, with a $10 million U.S. bounty on his head. He was close to Iran's supreme leader, and he oversaw much of January's crackdown, when state enforcers known as the Basij killed thousands of Iranian protesters. The top Basij commander was also assassinated.
It's an evil group. I mean, they've killed much more than 32,000 people. And the man who was responsible for that was also killed yesterday.
But Iran is still fighting back, including firing cluster bombs at Israel. This train station was hit by a cluster bomb. You can see where the little bomblet penetrated the roof right there and caused a lot of damage down onto the staircase. These cluster bombs are not very large. It didn't destroy this station. It didn't even cause any casualties, but it has a psychological effect because they're very hard to stop. So for a moment, as the weapons are dropping, it feels like the sky is raining hand grenades. More Iranian bombs rained down on Baghdad. The U.S. Embassy compound took a hit. There were no serious injuries or damage.
Richard Engel reporting. And now here with late-breaking news is NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Cubie. Courtney, CENTCOM saying that U.S. forces successfully employed multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator munitions on hardened Iranian missile sites along the coastline near the Strait of Hormuz. Break this down for us. Aren't those the same kind of bombs that were used to take out Fordo's nuclear facilities way back?
Very similar, just a smaller version of those. So some of the ones that were used on Fordo during the Operation Midnight Hammer, that was the U.S. military strikes against Iran back in June of 2025. In some cases, they used bombs as big as 30,000 pounds. But it's the same basic idea here in that they are heavy bombs, they're dropped, and they're able to penetrate deep down into, as you said, hardened bunkers. And why this is so significant right now is because the Strait of Hormuz has really become one of the focal points for this war. Iran has held it in danger for days now, not allowing any real traffic to move through there. And it's not even that Iran has been firing on numerous ships. It's just the threat. They have fired on several, and they have the threat of continuing to threaten commercial traffic, commercial shipping, and that is why it is not moving through there. Now, what the U.S. hit were these anti-ship cruise missiles. These are a real threat to any kind of ships that would be moving through there. And it was a big strike, Gadi. They took out a lot of them in this one hit. That being said, this will not, in and of itself, will not reopen the Strait of Hormuz. There are still additional dangers that Iran can pose. For that reason, this is a big operational win, but it's not the end of the ongoing battle at the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, Courtney, we've talked a whole lot about the Strait, but so very little about the mountainous terrain around there. We were showing some of the video just a little bit ago, and it does show the cliffs that are in that area and those mountain ranges. What kind of challenge does that type of topography pose to the U.S. military?
Yeah, so that just makes it all the more difficult for them because they have various areas where Iran can hide these sorts of potential munitions. So things like the anti-ship cruise missiles. It also gives them a heightened or a higher state or location for them to fire off things like drones. That's another big threat to any commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and military ships as well. It's not just the drones, the anti-ship cruise missiles, it's also the mines. We've been talking a lot about those. Those remain a threat. Now, at this point, officials cannot point to any evidence that the U.S. has seen Iran laying any new mines, but the threat remains that they have them and that if, in fact, they were to use them, it could be with deadly consequences. And then finally, Iran still has these fast boats. They're not all even manned, Gadi. Some of them are unmanned, basically like drones in the water. They can move very fast. They can slam into any kind of ship going through there, and again, with potentially catastrophic consequences.
Yeah, we've seen those used to great effect in Ukraine. I know a lot of Europe has been reluctant to send help in reopening the strait or keeping it open. Have there been any allies in the Gulf nations that are stepping forward?
So far, we haven't had anyone come forward publicly, but it's not really clear if any of those nations might do so. I mean, remember, everyone keeps talking about the possibility of military ships doing escorts. It doesn't have to be ships. There is the possibility of unmanned systems. So basically, like we were just talking about, unmanned drones on the water or even underwater that can provide some sort of patrolling capability that would potentially make it safer. There's still the possibility of air cover, so drones or helicopters that could not only move over ships as they're going through the strait, but could even potentially intercept or shoot down any incoming threat. All that to be said, the threat from Iran in the Strait of Hormuz is still so pronounced and dangerous that the U.S. Navy still has not made the decision to move forward with any kind of escorts. And without the U.S. being involved, I just don't see other militaries or civilians being involved in any kind of a coordinated effort for escorts or some sort of a coalition to move shipping back through there. They have to eliminate the threat before it will be safe for any ships.
Yeah, Courtney Hubie, really appreciate all of your reporting tonight. Thank you so much. Let's bring in Ken Pollack, the Vice President for Policy at the Middle East Institute. Ken, starting with the biggest picture here, Iran's deputy foreign minister said if the United States decides to put boots on the ground, it'll be another Vietnam. Trump was actually asked about that earlier today. Let's listen to what he said.
Because the Iranian regime has told Sky News, if you put boots on the ground in Iran, it will be another Vietnam. Are you afraid of that?
No, I'm really not afraid of anything.
So invoking Vietnam, obviously the Iranians know what that would do to the American psyche, but realistically, like, is that a possibility here, or are we in a very different time?
Well, so first, the U.S. would have to put boots on the ground. Now, I think that is a real prospect. Some of the things that the president is looking at doing, some of the things that we might want to do, particularly reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Courtney did a very nice job talking about all the different threats that the Iranians have in the northern coast of the Strait of Hormuz. The truth is, when the U.S. military has been planning these operations, wargaming them, what we found is typically that it's much, much easier to do it with ground troops, right? Those small boats, these really small, you can hide them in warehouses, mines, you can roll them out and put them into the water pretty much anywhere. And so it's hard to do it all from the air. Ground troops are very effective in getting that done. But that means you're on the ground. That means that they can be attacked by Iranian ground forces. Would it turn into Vietnam? Well, my best guess is that if the U.S. were to do that, it would be a very small force. It would be very limited. There would probably be a lot of air support for it. It probably would go in, spend a few days ripping up all of these different defenses around the strait, and then come back out. Hard to make it Vietnam. And I think you're absolutely right, Gady. And we see this from the Iranians all the time. I mean, for decades. The Iranians just say whatever they think will be most frightening. It has nothing to do with reality.
You know, a lot of people, when they think of the Middle East and they think of war in the Middle East, for us, it's either Iraq or Afghanistan. And when you look at the topography, not to talk too much about the topography here, but Iraq and Afghanistan are very, very different. And we saw that long, protracted conflict in Afghanistan, in part because of the topography there, right? So how do you see, I know if it is special forces that are being dropped in and then taken out, how long do you see some of those deployments? Are we talking matter of hours? Or are we talking forward operating positions? What does that look like?
Well, so again, Getty, it really depends on which mission we're talking about. And there are a lot of things that the president could decide to use ground forces to do. But let's just deal with a few that seem pretty likely at the moment, or at least that are on the table. So as I said, if we're talking about clearing out the northern coastline of the Strait of Hormuz, that probably would be days, maybe a week or two before you pull those guys out. Another mission, though, that people have talked about is seizing Karg Island, right? Karg Island is where 90% of Iran's oil gets put onto tankers and pulled out. Incredibly important to Iran. If the U.S. were going to seize that, chances are we would be holding on to that until the war ended, right? The whole point of that is to use it as a bargaining chip with the Iranians to get them to stop shooting at tankers in the Gulf. So you could be there for weeks, maybe months. And then at the other end of the spectrum, people have also talked about using ground troops to go in and try to grab Iran's highly enriched uranium, right? This is the core of their nuclear program, the thing that we're most nervous about now. That'd be a small operation. You'd try to send special forces there, but you're deep inside Iran. And we should remember that highly enriched uranium, it is buried, right? We buried it back in June. So it's not just a matter of putting some Rangers or Delta Force in there. You're going to have to put in equipment that's going to be able to extract that uranium. And again, that too would probably take days, be a very difficult operation.
Yeah, fascinating context. What are your thoughts on the news of today's strikes against Iran's National Security Council, the head of it, who was just killed, as well as the head of the plainclothes militia that are so feared throughout all of Iran? Do you think that that's going to move the needle at all here?
So, when I heard about those two strikes, Gadi, what it really registered for me is, boy, we really are in it for regime change. Killing Iran's internal security commanders, that's really about trying to make it hard for the regime to hold on to its control over the people. And I would say even more important than that, the killing of Ali Larijani, right, the de facto, the guy who's been running Iran day to day, the guy who's appointed by Ayatollah Khamenei to run Iran in his absence. Not a nice man, very hardline, but also very, very pragmatic. Someone who we imagined we might have been able to strike some kind of a deal with. Khamenei was another one of those guys, right? These are important figures. They have a lot of prestige within the system, and they could potentially stand up to the Revolutionary Guard and say, we're losing this thing and we got to cut a deal to get out of it. You keep killing all of their pragmatists, you're not going to have anybody but hardliners left. They're not going to be interested in making a deal with us.
Yeah, such a good point. Ken Pollock, always appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, Joe Kent, the now former director of the National Counterterrorism Center, resigned in protest over the war in Iran today. In a statement on X, he wrote that Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation and that it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Very strong words from the longtime supporter of the president, who responded this way.
I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat.
And let's get over to NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez at the White House right now. Gabe, break down the back and forth between Kent and Trump here. Did this catch the administration by surprise?
Well, look, there's been furious pushback from White House officials really throughout the day here. And Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, he had earned President Trump's endorsement for the position. He was very aligned with President Trump, even promoted conspiracy theories related to January 6th. He is a retired Green Beret. He's a former CIA officer who was a longtime Trump supporter. So in some ways, this is a significant break from the president. Now, throughout the day, we also heard from the president, who said that even though he was a top counterterrorism official, that he was weak on security. Raises a lot of questions about why he was in that position, if the president felt that way. But he also said that he strongly disagreed with the statement that Kent released, that if he felt that way, he was incorrect, and that the president feels that Iran did pose an imminent threat to the U.S. But still, very unusual resignation, especially from someone who had previously been so aligned with President Trump.
Yeah, it's always hard to see the big picture, but is this a sign that the president's MAGA coalition could be splitting over the war?
Well, look, that's a major question at this point, Gotti. It was just a few weeks ago that an NBC News poll found that the vast majority of respondents who were so-called MAGA aligned, they did support, some 90% supported what the president was doing in Iran. Still, over the last several weeks, there has been some signs that that coalition could be cracking. I mean, for example, today, The conservative commentator Tucker Carlson praised Kent. Former GOP Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and called Kent a great American hero. And there has been some MAGA figures that have strongly come out against what the Trump administration is doing in Iran. Now, certainly there are a lot of questions about, how far other Republicans will stick by the president. So far in Congress, the vast majority of Republicans are sticking by the president when it comes to Iran. But that could potentially change if and when there would be American boots on the ground, for example, in Iran. The president was asked about that, by the way, because the Iranian government, has said that boots on the ground in Iran could turn into some sort of Vietnam situation. The president today was pressed about that. He said he wasn't worried about that. Got it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Trump was taking swings at NATO allies earlier today. Let's take a listen to that.
I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake, and I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them.
Has there been any movement on that front?
Well, look, Gotti, the frustration has been building at the White House from President Trump over the last several days that what the president has seen as a lack of enthusiasm from NATO allies that have so far declined to offer any help when it comes to opening and keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. Earlier today, Senator Lindsey Graham, for example, said he had just spoken with President Trump and he was the angriest that he'd ever seen him. The president posted on social media saying that he would, that the U.S. doesn't need NATO's help. He was asked also today by a reporter whether he would reconsider NATO membership even. And the president, tossed the question aside basically and said, well, that's something that should be considered. Basically, the president now arguing that the U.S. does not need NATO's help. He is frustrated that more European allies have not come to the U.S.'s aid when, as he says, the U.S. has helped Europeans in Ukraine. But then late today, we have heard that the U.S. is trying to go at this alone in some ways with the development that these multiple 5,000-pound bombs were used by the U.S. to take out some storage facilities for those Iranian cruise missiles near the Strait of Hormuz. But certainly this ongoing feud between the president and leaders like Ukraine's prime minister and also the French president Emmanuel Macron, who today said that we are not a party to this conflict. Got it.
NBC's Gabe Gutierrez. Gabe, thank you. And don't go anywhere. Up next, weather whiplash across the country as some parts are digging out from inches of snow while the West Coast is preparing for a major heat wave. Plus, was there an actual meteor sighting in Ohio today? All signs pointing to yes. What we are learning about that fireball later this hour. So stay tuned. 90 seconds. Okay, 90 seconds, 5:26. Wow, we're out before 30.
C reverse.
C reverse. Okay, what's up, chat? We got 90 seconds to chat. We got like 70 seconds to chat. Didn't know about, yeah, Tina, yeah. So both Khomeini and Khamenei's son and grandson were some of the front runners. Let's see, Mark McKenzie, thanks for sharing the stream. Ohio meteor or satellite or something else. Just kidding. It's not. They're not interested in us anymore. They came by and then they're like, no, we're good. See you later. No more UFO sightings for you guys. You blew it. We were going to come land, but no. No, thank you. Let's see. I have a spider on my jacket. Hope not. 30. 30. Uh-oh. This iPad's about to die. Sorry if it does, guys. Ten seconds. Okay, here we go. Yes, we do it all the time, Queen. Stay tuned.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back, and here are some of the other headlines we are watching tonight. New numbers from the TSA explain those long lines at airports. TSA is saying that 366 agents quit because of that partial government shutdown, and that is not counting the number of workers who are calling out sick to work side jobs. In fact, yesterday, 10% of all TSOs called out, leading to major travel disruptions, and airports like Philly even shut down some areas to try to accommodate the staffing shortage. And there are new allegations about civil rights leader Cesar Chavez, claiming young women or girls may have been victimized by the former union president. The United Farm Workers say they haven't received direct reports, but the UFW and cities across the country are now canceling their celebrations ahead of Cesar Chavez Day on March 31st. And this rooftop fire in Midtown Manhattan sent more than 100 firefighters into action this morning. Authorities say the fire started in an office building cooling tower that was under renovation. You could see smoke across St. Patrick's Day Parade's route on Fifth Avenue. All construction workers, fortunately, though, were accounted for and no one was seriously hurt. And this is some new video just released of a high-speed chase in Florida. Cops say they were chasing this guy earlier this week through 2 counties. He avoided several pit maneuvers, but police eventually were able to stop him. The suspect, who was convicted of attempted first-degree murder back in 2018, was arrested and now faces several more charges in both counties. And an Amtrak train carrying more than 100 people crashed into this 18-wheeler in Texas. The train was headed from LA to New Orleans when the crash happened near Houston. Fortunately, that train stayed on the tracks, but there was a fuel spill, and Amtrak says no one was hurt. And tonight, more than half of the country is facing severe weather threats of either wintry, frigid conditions or summer heat waves. Blizzards right now are bearing parts of the Midwest. Look at this massive wall of snow blocking a guy's door as he opened it. The whiteout conditions are leaving dozens of cars stranded on roads as millions are under freeze alerts. Meanwhile, the West out here, we are facing a potentially historic heat wave this week as wildfires burn thousands of acres in Nebraska. NBC's Maggie Vespa has the very latest.
Tonight, stunning new video shows this Michigan neighborhood completely submerged under mountains of snow, here reaching as high as roofs. Now, sub-zero wind chills, freezing piles twice as tall as parked cars. This family's front door, impassable. In Wisconsin, car after car stranded along this Green Bay highway. Entire cities buried. Storms raging out east, too, with more than a dozen semis and cars wrecked in upstate New York and severe winds toppling massive trees in Massachusetts and Maryland. This week's wild weather exacerbating America's travel mess. Strong winds grounding flights at Houston's Bush International Airport. Stranded passengers sleeping on cots. United Airlines sending hundreds to hotels and transforming Terminal C into sleeping quarters. Atlanta's airport seeing long lines as TSA callouts mount amid the government shutdown. At Philadelphia International, TSA closing additional security checkpoints starting tomorrow due to staffing woes. Today, more than 1,000 flights canceled nationwide. Mother Nature's wrath also felt out west, with triple-digit temps roasting Arizona, Nevada, and California, and windy, dry conditions fueling historic wildfires in Nebraska, leaving one person dead and more than 700,000 acres burned.
The days ahead are really, really high risk.
A brutal combination of fire and ice wreaking havoc coast to coast. And speaking of ice, this massive, 20-foot tall mountain behind me, this is all just snow gathered from the streets of Waukesha, Wisconsin, where we are tonight. Cleanup across the Midwest expected to take days. Gotti.
Maggie Vespa reporting from Hoth over there. Maggie, thank you. And coming up, NBC's George Solis is getting rare access inside a Cuban hospital as the island's economic crisis and blackout is starting to impact those who need care the most. Stay tuned.
We're just doing beat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
1 minute.
1 minute, position B?
Yep.
Okay. What is going on? Oh, we got it back. All right. All right. Sorry about that. Camera died. Okay, there we go. Firing it back up. We'll chat on the next one. My bad. I'll keep my iPad charged. Sorry.
10. I know, right?
Hey, welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. First to Afghanistan, where officials are blaming Pakistan for killing at least 400 people Monday night in an airstrike that hit a drug rehabilitation hospital in the capital city of Kabul. That is the latest attack in the escalating conflict between the neighboring countries. It started in February. Pakistan has denied the allegations, saying it did not hit any civilian areas. And turning now to Russia, where the government's ongoing restrictions to internet access on phones is extending to the capital of Moscow. Some people there have been left questioning whether the Kremlin is deliberately cutting off communication under the guise of security as President Vladimir Putin continues to crack down on free speech since invading Ukraine. And Sri Lankans will be moving to a 4-day work week as the government declared every Wednesday a public holiday in an effort to conserve fuel. Now, the island nation is following in the footsteps of other Asian countries who have taken measures to try to prepare for shortages as a war in Iran disrupts global oil and gas supplies. And just as some of the lights are starting to come back on in Cuba after yesterday's total grid failure, officials say a 6.0 earthquake struck off the island's coast earlier this morning. The island is struggling with the effects of a severe fuel shortage, a lack of power, and a level of political uncertainty that has not been seen there in decades. George Solis has the latest from Havana.
Yonerkis Polo Garcia is fighting for her life at this hospital in Havana. The mother of 2 young boys has leukemia. Administering what in most places would be routine cancer treatments is almost impossible here. Garcia lives about 20 miles away from the hospital, too far to walk. She tells me without fuel or affordable transportation, life has only gotten harder. We are fighting every day, she says. My biggest fear is going to bed and not waking up next morning. This is a supply room where all of the medicine is stored, but power can go up for up to 8 hours at a time, which is enough to make the refrigerated medication spoil. They've had to come up with other ways to keep it cold.
You try to save it.
Of course. Doctors here say across the country, people are dying because of the fuel crisis. So far, they tell me this hospital has been lucky. Yadera Colas' 11-year-old son got here today in an ambulance. She says she feels grateful for that because transportation is so scarce.
Ambulances not on the road are in places just like this one. Some broken, some in need of repair, others just in need of gas that's so hard to come by.
In fact, 300 ambulances are sitting idle. There are only 25 being used for the entire country, all electric. Everywhere you turn, Cubans are suffering. The streets have been dark and homes dangerously hot. Garbage is piling up on every street corner. Carlos Montes de Osa says he tries to stay calm, but it's overwhelming. The stress gets to you. You could have a heart attack, he says. Families huddle around in the dark. It makes you want to cry, Isabel Garcia tells me. They feel devastated.
Patience is running thin as these power outages affect every aspect of life here, from keeping food cold to getting clean water. It is a huge challenge for all of these families.
George Elise reporting from Havana. George, thank you. And turning now to plans for this new border wall running through Big Bend, Texas, that has locals and even some law enforcement concerned that the wall is going to disrupt lives in that rugged area, cutting off water and possibly damaging the environment. NBC's Ryan Chandler has more.
It's sunrise on the Rio Grande, and Charlie Angel wonders how many more he'll get to watch here. For more than a decade, he's made the river his life and his livelihood, running canoe tours from his home just off the banks.
And here we are on the banks of the mighty, muddy Rio Grande.
He showed us exactly where that dream might end.
I always knew that if they were going to build a border wall, it would be right here upending my life.
For weeks, letters from Customs and Border Protection have filled his mailbox, confirming those fears, carrying threats of eminent domain.
This describes what the wall will be, where you can see it's called Border Barrier System. It's going to have 30-foot high barrier made of 6-inch square diameter steel bollards spaced approximately 4 inches apart, access roads, drainage gates.
All of this would essentially take over your entire property.
Yes, absolutely. If they build this wall like they're saying they're going to, you might as well kiss the Rio Grande goodbye because you won't have access to it anymore and it's going to ruin it environmentally.
This stretch of the border is rugged country, as beautiful as it is deadly. It's why, as the first Trump administration built more than 450 miles of new border wall, working to fulfill one of the president's signature promises, Republicans and Democrats alike around here thought it was unthinkable the blueprints would include them. Until now. DHS is planning more than 120 miles of new wall through the Big Bend, igniting bipartisan pushback, crossing what has long been a red line in some deep red parts of the country.
You can't make a better wall than that right there.
Presidio County Judge Jose Portillo, a Democrat and a retired state police officer, showed us why this region sees the fewest illegal crossings of any stretch of the southern border, even during the migrant surge under President Biden. After all, that wall was built.
Even if they successfully make it this far, they show up with their hands up in the air and they give up. And what they want is food and water.
Border Patrol touted a 74% decline in apprehensions here, from almost 12,000 in fiscal year 2023 to just over 3,000 last year, or under 9 people per day across 517 miles of border. Still, DHS has awarded more than $1 billion in construction contracts for the Big Bend sector so far.
There we go.
Just upriver from Charlie, Esteban Mesa shows us the property his family has held for generations, and the crucial source of water set to be walled off.
So you see, this is where I lift my water.
And if a wall was between your property and the river where you get your water, what would you do?
I don't know. Nothing.
Presidio County Sheriff Danny Dominguez took us to the border he patrols every day.
We don't need a physical wall here.
Last week, he joined the region's 4 other sheriffs, representing 4 deep red counties, signing a letter condemning the plans for a wall. They're pushing for a solution built on surveillance, not steel.
Would a wall make people safer here?
No, I don't think so.
A CBP spokesperson tells us the agency continues to develop and finalize its plans for a wall, focusing on the top operational priorities with historical rates of high illegal entry. As this region braces for construction, law enforcement sees little to gain. The Texans on the Rio Grande see everything to lose.
Fighting for your live stream here.
I'm fighting for my life. I'm fighting for my livelihood, for my career, for my sanity, for my peace of mind. And I'm fighting for the Rio Grande.
Ryan Chandler, thank you. And still to come, an NBC News investigation is digging into Iran's use of those low-cost Shahed drones and what's been making them so effective in this war. That's straight ahead, so stay tuned.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay, all right. Wow, that was fascinating. A lot of voices there on the ground. Let's see, indeed. Was there land? Why would NATO jump in if the United States wasn't attacked? Lovato Cat, that's a very good question. They seem to be, I mean, the whole thing seemed to be like a you break it, you fix it kind of policy. I know that that's not official, but that seems to be what Europe is doing. It's like, we didn't, you guys, it's not even finished. Yes, my iPad is now clear and at 18%. Apparently the charger down here wasn't plugged in. So, It's a very good point. And yeah, I see where you guys are coming from here. Jay, I've never thought about doing a meet and greet around the studio. That might be fun. We should maybe think about that. But yeah, are you here in Studio City or Universal Studios? Usually all the meet and greets happen at the farmer's market around here. That's where we go to see all the actual famous people. It's always fun.
1 minute.
All right, there we go. Cuba needs the power back on. The Grove. Yeah, that place is very fancy.
30.
30 seconds. Thanks, Big Mike.
Future of everything.
Are we going with Shahed or Shahid? Shahed, right? Okay. And is this a future of warfare look or?
7.
Okay.
4, 3.
And tonight, in the future of everything, we continue to look at how drone warfare is affecting the war in Iran. Both the United States and Israel are using those missiles worth millions in attacks against Iran, but Iran is firing back with a lot of these. These are the Shahed drones that you've seen. They're cheap, they're easy to make, and there are estimates that there are still thousands of them. Molly Hunter has more.
On a beach in Dubai, bystanders hear the now common sound of an Iranian drone's distinctive buzz. Cell phone footage captures it flying low overhead, chased by an Emirati jet.
Wow! Don't worry, man, don't worry. It's gone. Action is over.
It's an Iranian Shahed drone. They're cheap, mass-produced, packed with explosives, and sent on one-way missions. Since the U.S. and Israel launched their first missiles at Iran, Iran has launched hundreds of them in retaliation. An NBC News analysis shows the U.S. and their allies appeared unprepared for the threat of these cheap drones, which are proving highly effective. We verified and examined more than 24 drone strikes captured on video and found that Shahed-style drones have hit a wide range of strategic targets, including U.S. military bases, airports, and energy infrastructure. We spoke to defense policy expert Kelly Grieco about what these videos show.
I think when you look at these Iranian missile and drone attacks, it's easy to think that it is sort of random and just looks like chaos and an adversary trying to lash out. But when you look at the more closely at what they're actually doing and you look at their target set, you can see that it's actually remarkably coherent and it has a clear strategic and operational logic.
The majority of successful strikes confirmed by NBC News are close to the coastline, and that's happening for a reason. Iran is launching Shaheds on short-range flights across water, which makes them harder to detect.
If you are even delayed in your ability to detect it, it reduces the number of options you have in terms of how you might intercept it.
Most Iranian drones are shot down, many even destroyed on the ground before ever getting launched. But videos show that U.S. and allied forces are destroying Shaheds with weapons that are much, much more expensive and harder to replenish. A Shahed drone can be built for just $20,000. In the video from the Dubai beach, the Emirati F-16 fires a missile costing more than $400,000. Shahed-style drones have been around for years. The Ukrainian military uses cheap interceptor drones to destroy incoming Shaheds from Russia, but it took the U.S. a full week after the war started to ask Ukraine for help and expertise. In that time, Iran had already launched hundreds of drones.
We don't have, the cheaper options that we need to try to intercept these things, particularly at scale. And so we have been caught flat-footed in that way. And in many respects, it's inexcusable, given we've had 4 years to learn from Ukraine.
So now we have low-cost interceptors effectively combating Iranian drones?
Now it's a contest to see which lasts longer, cheap Iranian drones or the not-so-cheap anti-drone defenses.
It takes one party to start a war. It takes at least 2 parties to end it. Part of the Iranian calculus then is going to be, have we driven the costs up enough to make sure that this doesn't happen again? What it's trying to do is cause disruption. It's an indirect approach. It can't militarily defeat its adversary, but it can try to break its political will and make it exceedingly costly for a war to continue.
Molly Hunter, thank you. And in that same vein, on the flip side, NBC's Matt Bradley got a rare close-up look at a newer missile defense system called Arrow that's now being used in Israel. Take a look at this.
The Israeli and American offensive against Iran depends on Israel's muscular defense. and we got a rare, up-close look at its flagship weapon.
Now, Israel's Iron Dome often takes a lot of the credit, but this, the Arrow system, is the tip of the spear of Israel's missile defense. It swats down the high-altitude projectiles, like the ones fired from Iran.
Major A operates the system, which was made in partnership between the U.S. and Israel. He couldn't give his full name or show his face.
What would you say is the intercept rate that you guys have with the Arrow system?
Exceeding our expectations.
But challenges remain. The sheer number of Iranian missiles and drones means Israel's military has to burn through tons of interceptors.
Now look at the size of these. These are what's left of each interceptor fired by the Israeli military.
Israel has denied it's been running out of interceptors following a recent published report that said it had been running low.
We are prepared for the long run. We are good to go for as long as we need. And hopefully this will be over sooner rather than later.
But Israel has an innovative solution. Lasers instead of missiles. They call it the Iron Beam, and it's already been put to some very limited combat use. We sat down exclusively with its creator.
So US is burn it like a laser pointer, but with a much more power. So you have to find the target, focus the beam on the target, and burn or explode the missile or the rockets or the US in the air.
The Iron Beam could become a faster, cheaper, and more effective alternative to conventional air defense systems and could radically change the future of war.
Regarding air defense, will be a major implication of air defense now and in the future.
Until then, Israel's military is focused on winning this current war. So far, Iran can still retaliate against Israel, but that's something Israel's military says may soon change.
This is not just a game of defense, it's also a game of offense. And as time progresses, it's only working in our favor.
A war of wills, fought with heavy weaponry. Matt Bradley, NBC News, Israel.
Matt Bradley, thank you so much. And coming up, in a galaxy not so far away, we are introducing you to some dedicated athletes who are bringing competitive lightsaber battling to life. Yeah. But first, we want to show you this. This is Jimmy Rush. He just turned 80, and to celebrate, he brought close friends and his 99-year-old dad to Wetzel's Oyster House in Mobile, Alabama. That visit was inspired by a sign that's hung in the restaurant for decades, offering free oysters to any man who at 80 years old is still eating dinner with their dad. Oh. That sign was originally meant to be a joke, but as Jimmy neared his 80th and his dad remained in good health, it became something to look forward to. Talk about a deal made in the decades. We'll be right back.
2 minutes.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, chat, what's going on here? Let's see. Good food in Studio City. Oh yeah, sushi in particular. Shahid. We said Shahid because that's what Molly said, and I just deferred to her. Where's it green for St. Patrick's Day? Oops. I even got my daughter ready. Made her look like a little leprechaun, and then I totally forgot. Iron Beam is unleashed. I mean, hopefully never. Brothers, interesting. That is, you know, you say that, and there is a lot of nuance to that, Jay. There's a lot of people that feel that way. I was actually looking for polling numbers today, and there's no polling on that. But want to know, among that community, like, how do people feel? Let's see. Thanks, Crabby Leftist. Trying for all kinds of different news. Let's see. What up, Artie Goat? 1 minute. We got 1 minute. Still got some time. Let's see. Does Iran make them or buy them? They make them. They make so many of them, they sell them to Russia. And they're used in Ukraine a lot. Interesting to see so many of them in one package, though. Is he covering his face? Very good question. 1 minute. 30 seconds, SML. Good luck today, Artie. Good luck every day. All right, Moist. I like this. I'll give you the 10 countdown, and then you can go off. Ready? No, you're a little bit ahead. What are we at?
7, 5, 4,
Hey, welcome back. This morning, Ohioans were woken up by a big boom and then sightings of this fireball flying through the sky. So what was it? Sam Brock reports.
Tonight, meteoric levels of confusion in Cleveland after a loud boom rang through the region, frightening the pets in this person's backyard and stopping drivers in their tracks.
Whoa, what the was that?
The fireball, also spotted as far away as Pittsburgh, streaking through the sky.
Anyone that's in Northeast Ohio, did you hear the loud boom?
It sounded like a freaking bomb went off in the Cleveland area.
NASA says it was a meteor fracturing into small pieces when an asteroid nearly 6 feet in diameter and weighing around 7 tons entered the atmosphere.
The ground beneath my feet was no longer stable.
Ralph Harvey studies planetary materials like these at Case Western Reserve in Ohio.
We're just basically talking about space debris that's falling into the Earth's atmosphere, right? Why don't we hear about this kind of thing more?
Well, the main reason is it's actually more common than most people think. What's different about this one is it came during daylight hours right over a major metropolitan area.
So it turns out.
What are we, dinosaurs?
It's nothing prehistoric or even life-threatening.
There is a huge comet headed towards Earth.
Just a fiery moment shaking up some shocked Ohioans. Sam Brock, NBC News.
What are we, dinosaurs? Sam Brock, thank you so much. And finally tonight, how many of us have dreamed of firing up one of sci-fi's most iconic weapons?
What is it? Your father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Not as clumsy or random as a blaster. An elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
More civilized age. Well, it might not exactly be a lightsaber, but the competitive world of saber battling is bringing those colorful duels into reality. George Solis traveled to a galaxy not so far away to give us a closer look at all that saber action.
Fast-paced. Action-packed. The kind that makes you light up in more ways than one. Welcome to the competitive world of LED saber combat.
There's not really a whole lot to stress about. We're adults fighting with lightsabers.
Based in science fiction, but grounded in reality. As athletes decked in customized fencing mask and armor clash in authentic swordplay.
It is literally united through sabers because we've got people from all over the country. We've got people from every walk of life.
Look at it.
This group, part of a fighting family known as the Saber Legion, currently made up of more than 1,000 members with charters in 33 states and Puerto Rico and even 10 countries.
It's definitely been one of the most accepting sports I've been in. We've been over to Las Vegas, we've been up to Pittsburgh, we've been in Ohio.
They'll be the first to tell you, though, this is about more than just dueling.
We say that the lightsaber fighting is actually just secondary, and what it really is an excuse to make friends with people with common interests from all over the place that you would never have an excuse to meet otherwise.
Jared Graham helps run the Florida chapter. On this day, some of the best in the sport gathered in Claremont, Florida for a no-cost-to-enter competition.
Can someone that doesn't know a thing about sabers compete?
Absolutely. You need nothing to show up. You don't have to have gear or sabers. We have those to loan you, and so we can show you basics.
I decided to take a stab at it.
I'm feeling blue.
We're going to start with that just to get used to the feel of the sword. Good. Good.
Okay.
Solid. Awesome. Now, good thrust to the chest. Excellent.
And after a few practice swings,
let's do the real thing.
Suiting up for safety, because these up-to-league regulation sabers are made up of the same stuff police batons are. Here, the objective isn't hitting one another's blades. It's about strategy and landing the point-earning blow to your opponent's body.
Good, good, good instincts. Excellent, nice hit.
My forearm could probably use a little work, but athleticism, a lot of skill, a lot of safety, paramount to making this work. Through it all, quality sportsmanship, honor, and friendship.
The the same themes being highlighted and lighting up the big screen in a new documentary about the sport titled Saber. It comes as the Saber Legion celebrates a decade of hard-hitting and equally hard-hugging competition.
I always joke that some of my best friends are the ones I trust to hit me hardest in the face, because I know they're doing it with good intent.
Alec Martinez is one of the athletes featured in the film.
There are not words to describe how at home I get to feel. I think a lot of us who grew up loving this stuff didn't have a home.
And while the competition is fierce, even the ranking champion will tell you, even a loss can still feel like a win.
Worst case scenario, I spent the weekend in Orlando, 10 hours away from home, with a great community.
Honor is a big part of the sport, I'm noticing.
Absolutely. And that's important to cultivate in our culture, to say that we want to do the right thing.
Sportsmanship that literally shines. George Solis, NBC News, Claremont, Florida.
That literally shines. The world would be a better place if we could all just get our aggression out like that. And I'll be brought together by the power of the Force. George Solis, thank you. And you better bring that saber to LA, because it might be on the next time I see you. Be careful, because the Schwartz is strong here. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned to NBC News. All right, literally, wow, right? Mothballed the paintball guns. Crabby Leftist, did you used to paintball? Maybe I did. Kate, what color is your lightsaber?
All right.
Stallions, Tina, War Meteor, Star Wars, Bring on the Aliens, Lobato Cat. The news is weird, right? Very weird. Yogurt, delicious.
Standby.
We say thank you. Now I'm going to watch Spaceballs. Yeah, have fun with that. Lisa is pretty good. Let's see if she's here. No, she's not here. Usually she's up there. But she's back. She's just working remote. All right, guys. Let's do it again tomorrow. I'll stop. Thank you guys so much for watching. And, yeah, love this stream. Bring the questions. Bye.